My name is Pat Ormsby. This presentation will cover the results of my Design Thinking Ideation session for my Ball State University Design Thinking graduate course. The problem space I chose to explore is the Humane Society of the United States struggles to appeal to young adults and receive financial support from them. The question I looked to explore further was to learn how might the HSUS reach young adults and inspire them to support the organization in ways that align with their giving capacity. Over the course of the project, I have been focusing my research on three groups of potential stakeholders, which can be represented by these three user personas: the animal lover, the HSUS employee, and the empathetic millennial. The journey map I developed for the animal lover can be seen here. Their journey begins with awareness, grows with empowerment, peaks at affirmation and dedication, but eventually drops off to merely endorsing the cause. For the animal lover persona, the pivotal moment in taking the next step is the empowerment touchpoint, the third point along the journey map. The empowerment and awareness touchpoints were the main focus of this ideation session for the animal lover persona. Next, we take a look at the journey map for the HSUS employee persona. Their journey begins with awareness of the cause, exploring ways to help, joining the HSUS, succeeding at their job, finding their time at the organization might be up, and eventually leaving, but likely to still support the animal welfare movement. The pivotal moment for this persona is the second to last touch point. This is where they might feel they cannot grow in their role any longer or might feel unchallenged at their job. The achieve and impede touchpoints were the main focus of this persona for the ideation session. Finally, we have the empathetic millennial user persona and journey map. This journey map explores a scenario where a millennial might be looking to support any nonprofit, the research that they do, their hesitations, their giving habits, however long they may be, and their eventual drop-off. While it is not explored extensively through this journey map, through my own empathy research I gathered that millennials are hesitant to financially support nonprofits because they want to make sure that the money they are giving is going to help the cause. Some millennials I interviewed provided examples like PETA, who do not provide direct care to animals like the Humane Society of the United States does, or the Coney 2012 scandal, why they are hesitant to give money to a cause. For my ideation session, in an effort to make sure all of my stakeholder groups were covered, I gathered 8 young adults currently employed by the Humane Society of the United States. I conducted a few exercises with this group over the course of 90 minutes, individually, in small groups, or all together depending on the prompts given. Participants would write down as many answers to each question as they could, and were encouraged to write anything down as to not limit themselves to only the quote-unquote good ideas. The ideation session had 3 major parts. First, a quick stoke exercise to get the creative juices flowing. Next was a 15% solutions exercise, and the majority of the ideation session was dedicated to a 1-2-4 all exercise, focusing on how to overcome constraints. The stoke was a quick exercise where the group were all prompted with the same question: what prizes would people in the old Wild West find at the bottom of their cereal box? This was a lighthearted exercise, aside from the one participant who stated that famine was at the bottom of the cereal box, but nonetheless it helped people get in the mindset of anything goes. After the group shared their favorite ideas, this chart was shown. T representing time and Q representing the quantity of ideas generated. This expressed that at some point during the session, they would be faced with a moment of reignited creative energy, represented by the highlighted circle.
Next, I led a 15% solutions activity with my participants. Each participant was asked to consider what they might do within their individual resources and authority to launch a new project. Then, they shared in small groups of 4. I provided the example of myself proposing the idea for the Humane Voices podcast at the Humane Society of the United States. When I shared this new idea, I included a list of potential topics and guests, as well as a demo episode that I recorded just on my phone for people to listen to and understand the show's ideal format. Participants came up with their own ideas and shared them within the group, allowing each other to ask questions about their roles. Some of the ideas common across all participants were to develop project plans or budget statements, using HSUS brand assets like the Microsoft Word and Microsoft PowerPoint templates, or conducting standard research on their proposed project. There were also different responses from those who worked on specific campaigns like puppy mills or wildlife, and those who worked as support staff, such as accounting or public relations. Even though this was just a small exercise in exploring their potential solutions, it empowered them to think about what they are capable of instead of concerning themselves with the bureaucracy that they face daily within the organization. The largest part of my ideation session was the 5-part 1-2-4-all exercise, focusing on navigating organizational constraints. We discussed 5 major constraints an organization might face: physical, time, financial, infrastructure, and constraints on resources. Participants were prompted to develop and explore ways they might launch new campaigns at the HSUS while working with major constraints much larger than those they would actually face in real life. To give a bit more structure to the project, the activity focused on launching a campaign around flamingos, an animal that the HSUS is not currently leading a campaign on. Starting with the prompt, what ways might you launch a campaign if you only had to worry around physical constraints? From there, participants had 1 minute to write as many ideas or guidelines as they could to navigate the problem, then 2 minutes to discuss and select 3 ideas with a partner, 4 minutes in groups of 4 to narrow their 6 ideas down to 3, and then share their 3 ideas with a larger group. All ideas were collected at the end. This was repeated for all 5 major constraints. The key findings I am going to share are ideas that were generated from at least 2 prompts, created some sort of buzz with my participants, and had at least some realistic elements to them. At least every single prompt included some sort of digital element. It may have had a video component, existed on social media, or been an idea that used digital messaging like email or SMS messaging. There were also a handful of potential partnerships, such as Starbucks with a pink flamingo drink that raised money for the cause, video partnerships with Nat Geo or Netflix for streamable content, or any other number of our corporate partners. One key element that kept getting brought up is that with the Humane Society of the United States' proximity to Washington, D.C. and our affiliate, the Humane Society Legislative Fund, a bill could be introduced to Congress. There are many congressmen and women that the Legislative Fund has strong relationships with, such as Representative Raul Grijalva from Arizona or Senator Kirsten Gillibrand from New York. Those are just 2 of many potential bill sponsors. The team eventually found that the campaign should be well branded but not feel too quote-unquote corporate-y to make sure it remained accessible. They also identified that creating a story was key to the success of the campaign as well. For example, an animal with a name should be shown and featured throughout all communication. Similarly, these communications should show exactly what the donations will be helping with. Finally, with the HSUS shifting its focus at the beginning of the new year, it is important to make sure the whole organization knows that this campaign was an organizational priority, or as we call them, our big fights. Identifying this campaign as a big fight would help create urgency and allow support teams to allocate their resources appropriately. For example, banning the sale of fur is recognized as a big fight within the organization, while the Prairie Dog Coalition is not recognized as a big fight or a priority, but still important work. In preparation for the prototyping phase, here are some of the ideas of how I might move forward to get young adults more involved in animal advocacy. I could design the outline of a social media campaign or video series where I develop animatics or storyboards for potential content. This campaign would be a quote-unquote BuzzFeed-style video showing small but impactful ways that young adults can help animals, such as replacing plastic straws with metal or paper ones, or eating meat one less day a week. I could start framing the outlines for a young adult-centered donation program, such as a humane journey to Black Beauty Care Center, where young adults pay to go on vacation, but they also do work at the ranch so they could both raise money and also do hands-on work to help animals. A contest could be put out to the general public of artists and creators to design t-shirts, hats, buttons, or any other apparel based on animal causes that they care about, with the winners getting their designs made and sold through the Humane Society of the United States. I could ideate public stunts to create social media content in an attempt to go viral. This idea came from one of my participants' ideas of using plastic lawn flamingos on Capitol Hill to raise awareness for this fictional flamingo issue. And finally, I could use the resources currently at the Humane Society of the United States to kickstart a campaign focused around young adults to recruit them to the animal welfare movement. After all 5 1, 2, 4 all exercises, we did a short debrief. Here I asked participants what their favorite ideas were that other teams came up with, the most popular of these being the plastic lawn flamingos on Capitol Hill. Next, I asked participants what some of the more realistic ideas that were generated today were that could actually be started today at HSUS. This is where creating a story, creating branded apparel, and talking with lawmakers came up. Next, I asked what some of the more creative ideas were that they really liked, but they were skeptical about gaining more support on. Some of the responses included traveling to go work with animals firsthand, since it takes a lot of training to be able to work with animals closely. Finally, participants were encouraged to ask questions about the coursework, the exercises, and anything else they wanted to know. Mostly participants were just curious about what led me to Ball State, what led me to the EMDD program, and a few questions about how they might be able to take some of these practices to their own teams. Overall, participants enjoyed this session, despite it going a little bit longer than we originally anticipated. Many of them left feeling empowered, excited, and interested to see what the next steps were of this project. Thank you.